Good evening and thank you for tuning into PSY 2000 at 5 o'clock. Today's segment is addiction, a medical disease or moral defect. We will be covering health experts' journey to learn about and fight addiction, how people who suffer from addictions are affected, and why changing the stigma around substance abuse is a crucial part of treatment. In many communities throughout America, the epidemic of substance abuse has touched many individuals and families. Experts from around the world are working hard to save people from the negative effects of addiction and to help offer support to them and their families. Although more awareness is being spread about the realities of addiction as a mental illness, it is often seen that people misconstrue and demonize people dealing with an addiction. In order to combat this stereotype, however, a few questions need to be answered. What causes people to become dependent on substances, and how does this impact them mentally? According to a 2017 study done by Nicole Henderson and William Dressler, some factors that pose more risk for developing a substance abuse disorder include repetitive use of drugs and alcohol, stress, depression or other mental health concerns, a poor home life and environment, and being biologically predisposed to addictive tendencies. In today's society, more people are turning to self-medicating for many reasons, but what does addiction really entail, and why is it so dangerous? Common themes around addiction can stem from various issues depending on the person who suffers from an addiction. Some include using it as a form of escapism from stressful realities, whether it be a troubling family or work life, to relieve a form of mental agony, or simply to achieve a sense of pleasure. It can become habitual and even routine to use drugs because of how effective they are in giving a sense of relief or indulging in novelistic pursuit. However, it is important to note that these effects are only temporary. Continuous use of a drug can change a person's brain circuitry, affecting areas related to reward systems, stress, and self-control. This includes a chronic relapsing disorder, classifying it as a mental illness. Most substances that can cause addiction are psychoactive, meaning that they alter a person's judgment or behavior. Sometimes people can overdose on a substance due to their brain's damaged reward system, which can pose serious harm to the human body. An overdose is when an excessive amount of a drug is taken. For example, according to the Centers of Disease Control, opioids, a class of drug derived from the opium plant, caused over 80,000 deaths in 2021 due to an overdose. Thankfully, there are options to treat an addiction, including rehabilitation and harm reduction. However, it is important for someone dealing with or recovering from an addiction to have the right support system to help them through. This can be difficult due to the stigma around substance abuse and how it's perceived. According to the 2021 study, the impact of stigma on treatment services for people with substance abuse disorders, cultural norms and discrimination can shape stigmatizing thoughts. It underlines the need to challenge stigma in order to help addicts get the help they need. We have Michaela and Aileen today asking passerbys about their opinions on addiction and how they think those dealing with it can be helped.
Thanks, Gabby. I'm Aileen and this is Michaela, and we're here with Cameron.
Tell us, Cameron, do you believe addiction is a form of mental illness?
Yes, I do. I know people in my life that were going through hard times and they turned to substances to relieve that pain, and it didn't do anything good for them. It only made it worse, and they went through harder times because of it.
Thank you, Cameron. And now to our next interviewee.
We are now here with our next interviewee. What's your name, sir?
Justin?
Now, Justin, as you know, addiction is a huge part of our daily lives. There are many different views surrounding addiction. Now, do you believe that there is a negative stigma involving addiction and mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. I think a lot of times when people say like addiction or talk about addiction, a lot of people just tend to focus on drug addiction or alcohol addiction and abuse. But I think addiction can be so many different other things. Like people can be addicted to video games, people can be addicted to being by themselves. There's so many different things that addiction can lead to, and I think people, when they talk about or hear about addiction, they kind of just lean towards something bad when it's not always bad. It can be so many different things on such a large scale. Yeah.
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
And now here we are with our last interviewee of the night. What is your name?
AJ.
Now, AJ, how do you believe addiction affects our society and our community?
I think overall addiction affects our society and community very negatively. It can hurt people very personally and destroy their relationships and friendships and destroy a lot of the things that they've worked very hard to build up.
Thank you so much, AJ.
Now, back to you, Gabby.
Thank you, Michaela and Aileen. A sociological study found that people tend to stigmatize mental illness because of its unpredictability, or perhaps they believe it can pose a threat. However, it is important to note that coming to a better understanding of mental illness and its causes and effects will help erase the stigma around addiction. Individual experiences and cultural reconceptions help to shape addiction's origins, and only by challenging those can we begin to challenge addiction. I'm Gabriella from channel PSY 2000. Have a good night.